Hi, everybody. I'm Shivani from 1441 Don't Blink, and welcome back to another episode of Beauty and Brains, a podcast for First Girls from First Girls. Today I'm here with Grace. Grace, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm from 1023 Bedford Express. I'm a junior from Bedford. I'm one of the team captains at 1023 Bedford Express. Bedford Express calls me our crew chief, which I oversee everything non-robot related. I also mentor at the FLL and FTC level. I'm a candidate for the new leadership award this year, and I have some involvement with our state STEM advocacy, so I'm really excited to be a part of the podcast today.
Yeah, definitely. Can you tell me a little bit on how you got into STEM, like how you found yourself in the position that you're in, and kind of just like you're starting out?
Yeah, so I got involved in eighth grade. I'm a junior now. My dad has been an engineer my whole life. So I kind of like knew what STEM was. I didn't really know much about it. And then in seventh grade, I had friends that were a part of FTC. And I heard stories, like it was kind of something I was interested in. So then in eighth grade, I got an FTC. In Michigan, we have FRC is high school, FTC is junior high, and then FLL is elementary school. So I got involved in FTC and then I've kind of just stayed along for the ride.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems to have been working out well,
Yeah.
right? So what was the moment where you like kind of realized that you wanted to step into a leadership role? Like maybe even a story or just like a particular conversation you might have had with somebody?
Yeah. So at first I wasn't sure. People told me like, "Oh, you should try out." On our team we have tryouts for leadership roles. And people had told me like, "Oh, you should try out." And I was like, I just wasn't really sure. And then last year I stepped into impact presenting for our team. We had our impact lead couldn't make it to a competition, so I stepped up and took his role. And at that event we actually won impact, so I kind of got like a almost like an ego boost. I was like, "Okay, you can do this." And then last year we qualified for the world championship. And I was sitting there with one of our team captains. He was a captain last year as well, and he was kind of like just asking me like, "Oh, how would you feel if you took on this position next year?" And I like explained to him like, "Oh, that sounds really nerve-wracking, but I would love to do that." So then I tried out and then I ended up stepping into that position this year.
Yeah, like sounds like a fun but kind of nerve-wracking journey,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Especially during competition and competition season, there's obviously a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. So, do you have any tips or your personal way of handling that competition pressure?
Yeah, so especially with being in competition season right now, it's very overwhelming. I know every team has different like practice schedules and stuff, but I see myself spending like a lot of time at robotics, a lot of late nights there. And it can get super overwhelming, especially when you're trying to do a million things at once. And I've learned, at least for myself, like you have to put yourself first sometimes. Like, even though you might want to prioritize the robot or working on other things, sometimes you just have to sit back and like let things happen, kind of let things fall into place. Keep reminding myself, like, oh, if you miss one day, like the team's not going to end. Like, everything will be okay. You have to put yourself first. Sometimes, like, I remember, like, it's okay to take a night and just focus on yourself. I spend a lot of time, like, individually putting things in my planner to make sure like, oh, I can still do things but also have time for myself.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like obviously, robotics, although like contrary to popular belief is obviously very physical, you're there a lot of hours. It's also like mental health definitely matters. It's a mental game too. Like taking care of yourself along with obviously your physical state. So do you have maybe like a story of one of your proudest moments on the team or even just like, just something that made you kind of take a deep breath out and be like, wow, like I'm here in this position, like this is where I'm meant to be. I'm really proud of myself.
Yeah, so last year after I stepped up and kind of took on the presenting aspect and then the captain part, I told my head coach that I there was an organization I heard about, SASA, Student Association for STEM Advocacy, and they're having a national conference. My team has gone to the state conference a couple times, and it's basically advocating for STEM funding. So I told him like, hey, this is something I'm interested in. I think this is something our team should get involved in. So we sat down, we looked at logistically how can we make this happen. And we saw that they were having a national conference in DC over the summer. So we spent a lot of time thinking, hey, what's best for our team? How can we make improvements for our team, but also myself? Because this was something I was interested in. What can we do to make this possible? So we ended up signing up for the conference while we were at Worlds last year. And then we went this year and it was just a whole game-changing event for me. Like it felt like I'd been opened up to something so new. Like I'd always loved sharing my love for robotics with other people and getting to advocate for something that was so important to me. It was just life-changing. And I think it really opened my eyes up to how much STEM can bring you to. Like I had no idea I would see myself sitting with actual legislators telling them and sharing my story with them. So it's just crazy to see like, oh yeah, I started off with building robots, but I can also do this, this, and this from first. And it's just been honestly amazing seeing like first is just one organization, but it can lead you to so much more.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, like maybe one of your hardest challenges that you faced throughout this and how you overcome it and using that the lessons learned you from overcoming that challenge going into, the future or maybe even just the upcoming season.
Yeah.
So, do you have like any stories from your hardest moment or anything like that?
I think one of the hardest moments, especially as a girl in leadership, is just remembering that you are worth so much and you've done so much to get here. When I first stepped into this position, I almost thought that I wasn't seen as highly as the guys because there's four captains on our team and I'm one girl and there's three guys. So there were some days where I was sitting there and I was just like, I feel like no one's listening to me. I feel like this is the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, how am I gonna do this? It felt so hard and overwhelming. And then I just sat back and I was like, hey, you are here, they are here. Like you all did something to get to this position. And that's what's most important. Nobody's gonna care if you say a silly idea or if you mess up when you're saying something. Like in the end of the day, my voice is as valid as everyone else's. And that's what's important. And I think it takes a lot of mental courage to remember that you're here for a reason. You've obviously worked to get here. So just like reminding myself constantly, this is hard, but you can do it. Like you're obviously here for a reason. Like some nights I'm just like, how am I going to keep making this better? And it's so hard, but then you just have to remember, I deserve to be here. I worked to get here. So I think for me, the hardest part has always been just reminding myself, like, I am equal, if not more, to everyone else on our team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we said earlier, like it's also the mental part of the game where it's kind of like, you earned the position that you're at. And, in certain moments when you feel unheard, it's hard to believe that, even just like for yourself, like it's hard to, have yourself believe that. But I think it's one of the most important things, especially being in a leadership role like how you were in, and, being the only female in like out of the four captains. It's definitely something very important. So with that, like how do you make sure that everybody on the team is heard and their ideas are taken into consideration and they're included with the in the professional like competition aspect team wise, or even just in like the having fun outside of the team wise?
Yeah, so when it comes to like, I guess talking specifically about like the robot or competition aspect, Saturday's like our big day for practice. We have leadership meetings before practice, and then we sit down with the team and kind of talk about what's going on, what can we do next, like kind of what's moving forward. And we take a lot of time to listen to everyone around us. I've spent a lot of time like making sure I'm talking to the underclassmen, understanding like this is your idea, okay, how can we make this happen, or what's next, what can we do to kind of improve and get more knowledge across to everyone, especially because when there's so many people talking, I almost feel like people are not heard,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to like the upperclassmen against the lowerclassmen. Like that's just something that I feel like a lot of teams probably struggle with. So I'm always making sure like we're making sure everyone's voices are heard, everyone has an opinion. We don't just let certain people decide what's next. We always sit down as a team and kind of decide together. And then when it comes to like having fun, like I will talk to anyone. I love talking. I love hanging out with new people. So I feel like part of being a part of a team, we work together, we spend so many hours together. So then just like when it comes to competitions and we finally all get to have fun together, it feels like everyone is finally heard and everyone's finally like almost a part of one big family.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that first and just like specific teams in general do such a great job of making your teammates feel like family, definitely. And this is more of like a personal reflecting question, but what do you think is something, a skill that you have, or maybe even a quality that you have that makes you such a good leader?
Yeah, This is a question I've actually been reflecting on a lot preparing for the leadership interview. I think what I've gained most from first is I've learned so much about myself, but the most important quality to me is I've learned how to work with others to something I don't think I could get from any other thing. Like I've done other sports, other activities, and just working as a team is something you can get from anything. But I think specifically with robotics, like you have to be able to listen to each other. You have to be able to communicate together. Like there's so many things that actually come into being a good teammate that I've learned from first that I don't think I could learn from anything else.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, like, what's something that you learned from mentoring, younger kids in different areas of first that you never expected that you would learn?
I definitely learned that sometimes you just need to slow down and listen because there's been so many times where it's just so hard to like be patient and just let it happen because they're younger than you, they're learning, you're still learning. But sometimes like I'll just slow down and I'll listen and they'll be saying the answer I've been looking for this whole time. So it's just like, yeah, you might be teaching them, but they're gonna teach you too.
Yeah, definitely. And First is such like a organization where it definitely gives back, it gives you so many qualities, it teaches you so many new lessons. And with that, what do you or like how has First shaped you as a person outside of just robotics, maybe just in your daily life?
Yeah. First has given me so many qualities I'm so thankful for. Like, I've learned how to be a leader. I've learned how to speak publicly. I've learned how to work as a team. I've also gained so many friendships from First that I'm so grateful for. Like my team, I look at them all like we're family. I met so many people from other teams that I'm so thankful that I've gotten to meet. Like everything that I do now reflects who I am. And I think that a lot of who I am has came from first. Like I love first, my mom loves first. Like I went from not knowing what first was to it almost being the most important thing to me. So I think just seeing like how far I've come has really changed who I am as a person.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think is one skill that like First has taught you that you're gonna take into the rest of your life?
Yeah, it has to be my leadership skills. Without first, like I can't imagine where I'd be at, but also like my skills as a leader. I've learned how to be a leader and how to do it the most effectively as possible. Like there have definitely been times where I haven't been the best leader, but then I've sat down and reflected with my mentors or my coaches or my teammates and seen how I could do better. And that's also where I've learned like you need to slow down and listen because people are always just trying to help you. I feel like first is filled with so many people that are just trying to help you. So I think just taking it all in is something that's really hard, but first is trying to help you. Like it's not like anyone's ever against you. We're just a bunch of people who all of the same things, just trying to help one another.
Yeah, definitely. And like so far within your journey within, First or just robotics and STEM in general, who do you think has been or has made the biggest impact on your journey and has continued to help mentor and guide you through your process and your journey?
Yeah, so I actually have three people, if that's okay.
No, that's good.
Um, our head coach, he has changed the way that I look at myself. When I first came into robotics, I wasn't as confident as I wanted to be. I was slightly more quiet, and he kind of has always just like reminded me like, hey, you're worth so much. Like everything you do is a huge aspect to our team and what you've done. And then probably one of my co-captains, Gavin, he's spent a lot of time like training me to be who I am today. A lot of moments where I didn't think anyone would show up or like personal moments, he was always there. He was the first person to text me on my birthday. He showed up for like very personal events for me, and that's just something where it reminds me like these people are also your family. They'll always look out for you. They'll take care of you. I think he saw so much potential in me before I saw potential in myself, and that's just something I don't know I could get from someone else. And then the last person is definitely my mom. I struggled a lot when I first got involved. Like, I didn't know where I belonged. I didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was in FTC, I was very involved in the engineering aspect. I thought maybe, oh, I'd want to go into engineering after high school. And then I quickly realized that I did like that, but I also had so much love for impact and outreach and stuff like that. So even when things got hard, she was always there and she always reminded me, like, you can do this. It might seem hard now, but it's going to be worth so much in the end. And it's been worth so much to me.
Yeah, definitely. Like even just having those cheerleaders on the sideline for you is very encouraging and keeps you definitely through the process. And with that, if you could go back to when you first joined, or, what would you tell like yourself when you first joined STEM, or maybe just like when you first joined FDC?
Yeah, I definitely remind myself like even if you don't have it figured out now, you're going to figure it out. There's going to be challenges along the way, but it's going to be so worth it. Like I remember so much of good things that have happened, good things I've gotten from first. Like I don't remember the nights where something seemed hard or when I couldn't find the solution to a problem. I remember the good over the bad, so just it's all going to be okay. You're going to push through it. It's hard, but it's going to be worth so much in the end.
Yeah, definitely. And how do you think, like how you mentioned earlier, how do you think confidence plays into the role of just like, being on a first team, whether you're in leadership or whether you're just participating?
Yeah, I think confidence is definitely something that impacts how you are in first because if you don't throw an idea out there or something, it's never going to be heard. People aren't going to know exactly what you're thinking. And I think, like, when we sit down as a team, I know if I don't put out what I want to say or the ideas I'm having, no one's ever going to know. And
Yeah.
I think that's where my confidence has to come out and be like, okay, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but this is how I feel. Like, just making sure that your voice is heard is so, so important because if it's not, then you're not gonna get as far as you want to go.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, what advice would you give to somebody or specifically maybe even a female who's just starting out in the engineering field and, they're joining like in seventh or eighth grade, they're joining FEC for the first time. What advice would you give them to help them be as successful as possible?
Yeah, I definitely say that you just need to get your ideas out there. You need to be confident. They don't know how confidently you truly are, but if you make yourself look as confident as possible, that's what they're gonna see. And that's so important. Like, I wish someone would have told me when I was younger, you'd need to step out of your comfort zone sometimes. Even though it might seem challenging or a little bit scary, you just have to put yourself out there. That's gonna be where you see the best results.
Yeah, definitely. And, kind of with that, what would you like say is one of the best or most important qualities to have when you're in that starting out position besides obviously like how we discussed confidence? What do you think is another very important quality?
Yeah, this is actually a quality I wish I would have had more of, but just being able to listen. When you can listen, you can get back so much. And there's definitely times where I haven't listened or I wish that I would have because I think I've just missed things by not paying attention or not listening. But if you can sit down and listen and be coachable, be able to learn quickly, that's going to matter a lot. Like you can learn so much and get so many new skills from first. So if you just take a step back and listen and pay attention, you're gonna get those skills and they're gonna be worth so much.
Yeah, definitely. Now, going forward as like you mentioned you are a junior, how do you think first has kind of changed your perspective on what you would like to do in the future or in college?
Yeah, so I mentioned this earlier, but I was talking about how I went to DC to advocate for STEM funding and stuff like that. I want to go into political science now. I want to lobby and help people get their voices heard, which thankfully I've gotten all of my leadership and my soft skills from first, so I think I can confidently lead in kind of an aspect like that. But I mean, I am only a junior. I think things can change. I've definitely seen what I want to do change throughout high school and middle school, but right now I'm planning on studying political science.
Yeah, it definitely sounds great. And with that, like kind of what like impact do you hope to leave on just maybe your team specifically after you graduate and move on?
Yeah, I feel like I've done a lot trying to mentor the underclassmen, get them involved in what I'm involved in, teach them as much as I can. I want, when I was first on the team, I knew a lot about who our leaders were, who our captains were. They were very involved with our underclassmen. Like, our head captain when I was in eighth grade. Everyone knows him by name. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone knew the impact he left on this team. And I almost want like the underclassmen to know who I am, like know that they could have always come to me when they needed something. Like I just want my team to know that they have someone who actually cares about them and at the end of the day, I'm not just like a leader, I'm also their friend. And just know like my team knowing how much I actually cared because Bedford Express is part of who I am now. And spending the last 3 years with them, I've learned so much, and I hope that I leave an impact on the team almost as similarly as they've left on me.
Yeah, definitely like kind of giving back and maybe being that like alumni that
Mhm.
the new kids know by name even though they
Yeah.
were never on the same team like same on the same team like at the same time as you definitely. And you talk about, going to DC for this conference about, STEM advocacy. With that like specifically like in young girls, like why do you might think it's so important to have women in STEM and have women in STEM not only just having them but representing them and really advocating for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know me and other leaders on my team talk about this. I think some of the best leaders that I know are women. They are confident, they are so well spoken, and the future generations are of STEM. I think a lot of people can see that, and it's pretty clear now, especially with FIRST. Like, you see so many strong leaders, so many strong innovators. I think that the future moves forward with STEM. Women are so capable of being that leader. Like, there are so many intelligent women I know that strive so well in the STEM fields. I know so many women that are going to big schools now studying engineering that are out in the engineering fields that do so well. And I see that in so many younger girls. And as long as they keep pushing, even when it gets hard, even when they feel like they're less, we are going to have some of the best innovators in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And, since we're running out of time, just like one last question. We talked about how, first is kind of change your perspective on what you want to do with the rest of your life. With that, how do you think that you've given back to First in the time that you've been on FDC and FRC and mentoring FDC and FLL?
I think a lot of how I've given back to First is through the mentoring, but also the outreach I've done. Like this year, our team has started new initiatives that specifically help new FRC teams, new FTC teams. I think that what First really wants is for you to love the organization, to love your team. And there's so many people that are a part of First that I've seen them give back. And I'm so thankful to say that I know how I've given back. Mentoring has been a huge part to me. I've spent so many hours just helping shape the future generations of First, but also like just outreach we leave on other teams, other people. Like there are teams where I know specific people on their team. Like I think a huge part of giving back to First is helping others, helping other teams, just stuff where you're directly helping your community. Like this year, our team started like almost like a guidebook to how we run our FRC team as a 23-year-old team. So I've personally gone and handed out these books to younger teams, and just like the outreach that I've had gives back to First and my community, and that's huge to me.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. I mean,
Yeah.
so unfortunately, we are coming to the end of my time, but I just want to thank you for, taking time out of your day to come on and, all the advice and the experiences that you've talked about have definitely helped. And, this is exactly what this podcast is trying to do, just STEM advocacy, getting women in STEM out there, encouraging the younger generations that are coming up that, making sure they had that visibility of seeing girls doing what they might want to do. So I just want to thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and to the viewers, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Beauty and Brains. Check in next Sunday for the next episode. Thank you.